Support for this podcast comes from Frito-Lay and the 2023 Snack Bracket Championship. The Frito-Lay Snack Challenge is underway, and fans are voting on their favorite snacks to crown champion. We're talking about prime-time matchups between the best 64 snacks in the land. Will Ruffles Ridges reign supreme? Can Doritos defend their dynasty? Or will Smart Food use their smarts for a surprise upset? Only you can decide. Get in on all the action for a chance to win up to $1,000 or a year's worth of snacks. Let your snacks be heard. Just go to fritolaysnacket.sbnation.com to vote and enter for a chance to win. No purchase necessary. Sweepstakes ends April 3rd, 2023. Void where prohibited. Year's worth of snacks awarded in the form of 52 coupons, each good for one bag of chips. See official rules at fritolaysnacket.sbnation.com.
This is the Black Gold Banneret Podcast.
Welcome to the Black and Gold Banneret
hosts,
Podcast. My name is Jeff Sharon. Along with me, of course, as you heard, Eric Lopez. We got a full show for you today. Lots of intrigue. Lots of intrigue. We're going to talk about Pro Day at UCF, which is on Friday at the Nicholson Fieldhouse. Who's going to get drafted? Who's not going to get drafted but get paid? Who's going to take another shot? We'll have some Mackenzie Milton talk. Stat Boy Drew, Andrew Gukov's going to join us for that. A little bit later, we're going to talk about who's going to be UCF's next head coach. Of course, Coach Abe leaving for the University of Georgia, taking all of her assistants with her. It is a full rebuild for UCF women's basketball. We'll speculate recklessly as to who we think will be the next head coach for UCF. And then later on, Bryson Turner will join us to talk a little baseball. Keyword there, soul searching. Soul searching from Greg Lovelady. Has UCF found their soul yet? I don't know. We'll find out. But we begin with Pro Day, which will be in the Fieldhouse and televised live. Eric Lopez and Andrew
ESPN
Bukov
Plus, baby.
ESPN, look at that. ESPN Plus paying off again. UCF has nine guys? Yes, 9 guys who will be working out for the professional scouts. Among the guys from this past year's team, Woody Barrett, running back. He was the former quarterback who only got a cup of coffee in a couple games. Big Cat Bryant, who we all know and love. Nate Craig Myers, wide receiver. Kalia Davis. Noah Hancock, defensive tackle. Brandon Johnson, who had a great year last year. I love Brandon Johnson. And Cole Schneider, along with Marcus Tatum and Mackenzie Milton. Oh, by the way, also listed on Twitter, I wanted to pull this up. Greg McCrae is going to be there as well, strutting his stuff for the scouts as he aims for a job. Because I wanted to pull up the full list. Is that everybody, Drew? I think.
I thought there was one or two more like former players. I thought Neville Clark may have been one of them. But I could be wrong on that. But I thought there was another player that was going to be part of it without, already graduated.
I'll double check. But anyway, so here's the big. Nate Evans. Yeah, there you go. Thank you, Bryson. Actually, emailing that one over to us. So Nate Evans will be there as well. So here's my question for you, Drew, and we'll start with you on this one, and then we'll go to Eric. Of these guys who are out there, who is the most likely, how many of them do you see getting their name called for the NFL draft?
Well, I think one's a guarantee. I think Kalia Davis is a guarantee to get drafted. I think he's the safest bet.
Okay.
Just based on his play and everything. Granted, he's recovering from injury still and is at the tail end of that. But that hasn't stopped other players from getting drafted. I think on the top end, you may see up to 4. I don't think it's going to be that high, but that's kind of the pie in the sky wishful thinking. And my 4 would be obviously Davis, Big Cat Bryant, Brandon Johnson, and Cole Schneider. Those are my big 4. I don't think they'll all get drafted though. That would just be a nice surprise. Even like a Jacob Harris, where just the pro day just does wonders for their stock. But I think those are the guys. I mean, Cole Schneider, his versatility makes him valuable, like a Justin McCray. and Brandon Johnson is a very consistent receiver. And then Big Cat's biggest problem is he's undersized for defensive end, but could be a flyer on a conversion to an outside linebacker position.
Yeah, Big Cat is the one who kind of intrigues me the most. Like if I'm an NFL GM, because he is such a he is one of those guys who he was put on this earth to rush the quarterback, and when you have a guy who's that skilled and that athletics, like it's somebody could take a look at him and be like, we've got to find a place for this guy somewhere, right? He intrigues me the most. Eric, who do you see?
I'm on the same page with Drew. I would say two are the more likely to get drafted. I think Kalia is definitely the guy. I think he has the most to gain in this pro day because he's got to prove. If he could prove he's going to be healthy, ready to go, his draft stock goes up. Doesn't mean he won't get drafted if he's not healthy, but I think he could stock up if he could prove he's 100% healthy. And I think Big Cat would be the second guy. I'm not sure that Brandon Johnson, I think he will latch on to an NFL team. Not sure if he gets drafted or not. Receivers it's a kind of a, does somebody like you or not? Who knows?
Yeah, receivers are kind of a dime a dozen.
Well, that's what I said, pie in the sky kind of view.
Yeah. But I think it's Kalia. This is Kalia's day. This is his day. He's the guy that the question is, can he convince a team to maybe be a day 2 draft pick? Lock that up anyway. Lock up a day 2 draft pick somewhere early in the rounds, or is he a day 3 guy? And that's significant for him. And obviously he has confidence in himself to do that, and we'll find out on pro day. At least get an idea, get a sample of it.
I think on a talent basis, he's a day 2, but you may have some people wary from the injuries, which could push him down and thus make him a value pick in day 3.
The big question that everyone is going to ask is, what about Mackenzie Milton? Now, Mackenzie is participating in 2 pro days. He was at the Florida State pro day, and obviously he's going to get another shot for the scouts at the UCF pro day. Now, let's give credit where credit's due. He has busted his tail to try and get himself as ready as anybody else. And when we interviewed him, remember, Eric, he gave us a pretty good sales pitch. All those guys who were in the top tier of quarterbacks, he beat them all head to head. So the question is, what's Mackenzie? Could you see somebody taking a flyer on him? If not, what's the most likely route? Drew, I want to start with you on this one.
I don't think he's going to get drafted. I think there's too many question marks. He's going to get a tryout opportunity, though. Guarantee he'll get an opportunity to at least go to one of the invitations, the invitationals that the teams have for tryouts, and go from there. I just, if he never got hurt, obviously it'd be a very different story. And granted, this is a weak draft class. 2022 is just not a strong draft class. If
he never got hurt, he might be in his second or third year in the NFL now anyway.
Who knows? But this is not a strong class. But even then, I just don't see Milton getting drafted, and it's unfortunate because you're right. He has worked his tail off. He's finally shed that bulky brace and did his pro day without it. But that's without pads. We saw how he did with pads this past season. It wasn't good. He was definitely kind of a shadow of his former self. I think teams are going to notice that. They're not going to, use the draft capital, but he's going to get a shot to at least prove it on the field in a tryout situation.
Eric?
Well, I think this is what, for him, this is about networking. So can he build a relationship with a franchise that may talk to him? I agree with Drew. I think he won't get drafted, but can he build a relationship where he gets, get to be on a practice squad with a team, sign on, things like that? Because a lot of guys, that's the thing. I mean, we focus so much on who gets drafted, but there's always going to be that depth of players that will sign with a team after the draft and try to make their way that way, make a living that way, be on the practice squad. We forget about that, and that's just as important for these guys. Even if they're not looking to be drafted or won't be drafted, can they impress somebody to say, all right, listen, if they're available, if they're free and available after the draft, let's call them and bring them in. And, look, that even applies to a Nate Evans, who's obviously trying to get himself another look, too. Try to impress. This is all networking. This is how You're trying to get somebody to buy into you as far as if you're a player is concerned in this.
Well, something to keep in mind is, practice squad is not the end, is not a death sentence in your career. We've seen players, UCF players, who have made it into the NFL after being on the practice squad. McCray, as I talked about earlier, I believe Atari Bigby was a guy who had to dance around a little bit and finally break in. So it's not unprecedented for a player on a practice squad to find an opportunity to get onto the active roster, and once they're there, they hold on to the spot. But it gives them an opportunity to at least prove it.
Eric, you mentioned networking. A couple other options that might be out there, not just for McKenzie, but for some other guys. The USFL, although its first week is actually 2 weeks before the NFL draft. So their rosters are pretty much set. But, fairly certain that they're going to keep their feelers out there for potential guys who might go undrafted and maybe, late season pickups or maybe developmental picks for next season, assuming there is a next season. The Canadian Football League, their season their preseason actually begins at the end of May. Their regular season starts sort of the middle of June. What are the opportunities for guys there?
Right. I mean, that's plan B, right? Like, I think everybody that's doing pro days, first goal is, can I impress the NFL? If that doesn't work out, all right, what's my next option? Is it the USFL? It's going to be tough because you're during the season and things like that. You have that.
I feel like they kind of screwed that up. Shouldn't they have had that league start a little later, like after the draft?
Wait, a spring football league screwing up? No, I'm shocked. I tell you.
He looks depressed.
I know. I'm devastated. You mean a league that's surrounded? It's in Birmingham. It's not going to work out. Shocker.
Birmingham is like the center of football for some reason that we still can't fully rationalize. But it's the center of football. Is Birmingham, Alabama.
They like their Southern football there, so we're gonna watch any football. We love our mediocre football over there. Hell, we got a dump of a stadium.
Let's go back to what we were talking about.
I think the Canadian Football League makes a ton of sense. Guys in the UCF have had success there. Terrence Plummer has played there.
Brandon Alexander, Joe Burnett had a very successful CFL career.
I think the CFL now. I don't
star there.
Will Stanback, yeah.
The tricky thing about the CFL, though, is under the current climate, there's the whole thing with the vaccine, and you got to be vaccinated and all that stuff. So you better be vaccinated if you're an athlete. If you want to play in the CFL, the NBA players are finding that out right now as they're getting to the playoffs. Anyway. Well, that's kind of political there. They don't just let you in.
It's really not. Just get the vaccine. Anyway, carry on.
All right. Well, yes, but my point is that's something they have to take care of, and who knows? But otherwise, I think those are options in that regard. And so we'll see. But I think their first goal, they're not thinking about that right now. They're thinking about the NFL. And look, if the XFL gets going, you never know. You could be talking to somebody at Pro Day that a year from now or two could be working in the XFL, could be working in the USFL, could be working in the CFL, could be working in another spring football league that'll get launched, I'm sure. Maybe it'll be, whatever. You never know who you talk to and impress that could lead you to a future opportunity. And that's what Pro Day's about.
All right. Go ahead, Drew.
There's also arena ball in there. There's indoor football.
Right.
It's still around.
That's what I'm saying. Right.
It's become regionalized as opposed to the old national AFL, but it's still alive and kicking.
Right.
So let me ask you guys before we wrap up on Pro Day here. Give me a name who is going to be this year's Brashad Perriman. Remember when Brashad ran that 40 and that made some national waves? Who's your pick for a guy who's going to have himself a day and people are going to be like, whoa, his stock just went up?
Ooh, that's a tough one. Because in this class really
Who are we sleeping on, Drew? Who are we sleeping on?
I mean, I kind of nudged him before, but I think we're sleeping on Brandon Johnson. He had a leadership role and really rose up in an offense that struggled badly. I don't think we realized how much the offense struggled after the quarterback change early in the year. He still ended up with over 500 yards and 11 touchdowns. I mean, that sure hands going into the end zone is a big deal. So
he was a touchdown machine last year.
He was. I mean, you look at his stats. He had 1 touchdown in his time in Tennessee, which was spanning 5 seasons, and then had 11 at UCF. Obviously, something changed. He was a team leader in yards in 2017 for a Tennessee team that wasn't very good. But I think he has the potential to surprise us.
Yeah, not to mention the fact that he did that with a true freshman quarterback.
It was a tough situation, and
still was just
leadership
Mr. Reliable.
opportunities there to help that offense. I think he may turn some heads.
Eric, who are you looking at?
I think this is all about always these pro days. There's always one guy that's focused on, and I think Kalia Davis could make the national headlines. Hey, he's ahead of schedule. Wow, he's healthier. Really? That will get the buzz going on the draft boards. That'll get Todd McShay and all the draft nicks talking. Or he won't be ready to go. People are like, oh, yeah, he's not still over there. I think it's to make big boom or bust there for him. He's the one that could make noise. I think everybody else, it's like, all right, that's nice. We'll see if they could do it again at the combine or whatever. But I think Kalia Davis, I think all eyes are on Kalia Davis this Friday. I think he has... Not that he has the most to lose, because at the end of the day, they're going to be on shirts and stuff, and if they do this correctly, you're supposed to look good at Pro Day. But I think the big question is, we're going to know after Friday, hey, Kalia Davis is healthy. He's ready to go. Or, I don't know, he's still not all the way back. I think that's the big question for Friday.
Well, I think the eyes are going to be on him no matter what, whether is he or isn't he. I think he's already the highest profile player that has a realistic chance to be drafted. Obviously, Mackenzie Milton, people talk about him, but from a realistic standpoint, I think Kalia Davis is the guy walking into this already. So regardless of whether he does the drills or doesn't, he's still the guy that everyone's already going to be focusing on.
I got my guy, Cole Schneider.
He was my second guy.
He's here's a guy who played 5 years, right? Started at offensive guard for his last 4 years. Has NFL size at 6'4", 315. If he can show the athleticism, he might be one of the top guards taken in the draft. I think we're sleeping on Cole here a little bit.
I think it's a bit of a stretch to call him one of the top. I think it's a bit of a stretch on that, but he definitely can be serviceable.
I think one of the other things that's a little underrated about him is the fact that he's been a steadfast presence on that offensive line under 2 dramatically different systems, with an air raid pass first offense and then Gus's kind of run first, run pass option type of deal. I think that's an underrated quality, and scouts love a guy who comes in and is like a man. Like, you don't have to do much to develop him. You just have to work with him. I think he fits the bill. I want him on my Giants is what I'm trying to say.
Not only that, Jeff, but he has game experience playing other positions.
Yeah.
That versatility.
Played center a little bit,
value.
Right?
There's value in versatility.
Well, I think he's going to be on an NFL roster. The question is, does he do enough to get drafted, or is he going to be a free agent? That's the question.
I think he could squeeze in as a day 3. I think he's a day 3 pick. And I think he could surprise some people, but I don't think he's gonna, really move the bars against other linemen.
Giants, go get him. Come on.
You've kind of cursed yourself to not get him now.
Joe Shane, do it. You know you want to. All right. Pro Day Friday, April the 1st, April Fool's Day. Oh my god!
Yeah, that was not the day I wanted it. I was like, the jokes
it's
just
not
write
ideal.
themselves.
But this won't be a joke. It'll be on ESPN Plus. Mark
ESPN
Daniels,
Plus.
Gary Paris, and Rini Angolia will be on the.
He's going to be there talking about guys. It will be. They're going to do the indoor stuff at 1 p.m. and then the outdoor stuff in the field house. Live coverage on ESPN Plus begins at 1:30 p.m. So,
woo! Drew, I know you've got it locked in, Drew.
I'll have it running.
Look at that.
One of the benefits of having 2 monitors in your office.
I got two TVs. I got my side monitor here, and I got the computer. So I got a lot of stuff that I can play. All right.
I mean, I could put stuff over here. I just never did.
Yeah, you're just get it together, Drew. Come Statboy Drew
I'm a
on
mess.
yeah. Statboy Drew on Twitter if you want to yell at him for various things. Thanks again, Drew. We'll be monitoring Pro Day, and Kyle will be there in person if I'm not mistaken. And possibly
He's
Noah,
camping
too.
out right now.
Yeah, he's
I know,
already
they're
got
camping out.
He's already got a cooler and a tent and a sleeping bag. He's ready to go. He's waiting it out. If
Which is impressive
because
he's
so far away.
Well, it's
He's got
impressive he's
coffee in
doing
a
that. 'cause-
thermos.
Yeah, he's doing all that while wearing a suit. That's the most impressive thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, he wears a tie to everything.
So
Exactly.
all right, we come back. He'll get the chance to defend himself here as we talk about UCF women's basketball.
He wears that as a badge of honor and pride and how he dresses up. He's proud of that.
Coach Abe obviously going to Georgia. We'll talk about what pulled her and her entire staff out of UCF and and who else is leaving the program and where UCF decides to go from here with what will be a completely overhauled coaching staff in 2022. The Terry Mohajir's job just got a little bit more difficult. So we'll see what's ahead of him when we return. This is the Black and Gold Banneret Podcast, and we're back after this.
Today's episode is brought to you by Cars.com. With over 2 million vehicles and 50,000 more added every day, Cars.com will match you with the perfect car for you, your budget, your life, your style. And if you're ready to say goodbye to your current car, Cars.com will get you an instant offer to cash it in. Just start by entering your license plate and get matched with a local dealer who will write you the check. So whether you're looking to buy or sell, just go to Cars.com. It's magical.
Welcome back to the Black and Gold Banneret Podcast. Jeff Sharon and Eric Lopez with you. Joining us now, Kyle Nash, because we have to talk about UCF women's basketball. And, oh my gosh, are we going to have a head coach? The big issue right now, of course, it is official. In case you haven't heard yet, Coach Abe has moved on to Athens, the University of Georgia. Earlier this week, it became official. She takes over a program that she played for 2 years at the start of her college career before she transferred to Iowa to finish her college career. She played for Andy Landers, legendary coach Andy Landers, and takes over a Georgia program that saw their head coach leave for another school in conference. And pulled Coach Abe from UCF to take over the program at Stegman Coliseum. So, not only that, but we found out during the Georgia press conference that not only has Coach Abe left for Georgia, but she's taken all of her assistants. Tani Valerio is gone. Issa Kanuzamari is gone. Nikisha Sales is gone. And... now
everybody's going with Abe.
It is. Listen, I know. Will Smith, Ebony Henry Harris, also who is the video coordinator. She's gone and taken an assistant coach job up at.
Kyle, is there something you want to tell us, Kyle? Is there an announcement you want to tell us here? Are you moving to Athens, Kyle?
Under further consideration, I found myself. No, gentlemen,
having covered the University of Georgia for 2 years of my life in Athens, I can tell you I'd much rather be in Orlando. But then again, I'm not getting paid as much. So I'm getting paid a lot more to be in Orlando than I am in Athens, which is the opposite of Coach Abe. She's getting paid a lot of money by the University of Georgia, and so are all of her assistants. But anyway, that takes us to the question at hand. Terry Mohajir, ball's in his court now. What do you do? No holdovers, so this is a total overhaul of your staff. I have an article up on Black and Gold Banneret right now. 6 potential candidates for UCF women's basketball head coaching. Let me go through them real quick. We just found out this week after we published that a couple other names have popped in. These are just purely speculative, but Carla Berube, Princeton head coach, former UConn player, coached 2 years in the Ivy League. Remember they didn't play in the COVID year. Won Coach of the Year both times. She's never lost a game in conference play. At Princeton, she's 48-5. 48-5. One of the best defensive coaches in the country. Dawn Plitzuweit, of South Dakota. This was a Bryson Turner special here. Pleitzoite, who's, you look at her resume, looks almost like a carbon copy of Coach Abe's, coming from South Dakota. Started at South Dakota the same year that Coach Abe did. Won 20 games every year but the COVID year, just like Coach Abe did. Went to 2 NITs and 3 NCAAs, just like Coach Abe did. She won a Division II national championship at Grand Valley State back in 2006. She knows what she's doing. One name that always pops up, but I don't think anybody's going to be able to pull him out of there, Carl Smesko, Florida Gulf Coast. This guy's resume is ridiculous. He's the first and only head coach FGCU has ever had. They've won the ASUN regular season 11 times and the tournament 10 times in his 13 seasons. His career record at FGCU, this is unreal. 518 wins, 97 losses. That's over 82%. But he's had numerous Power 5 offers over the years, and he's turned them all down. So I don't know what UCF thinks. Definitely worth the phone call, but I don't think you can pry him out of there. Holly Warlick, former Tennessee head coach. He took over for Pat Summitt. She was one of Pat's lead assistants. And went 172-67 as a head coach before Phil Fulmer unceremoniously fired her. But definitely another option. We threw in Carolyn Peck, who has Central Florida ties, coached the Orlando Miracle, coached at Florida, won a national title at Purdue. One of her players at the Orlando Miracle, interestingly enough, Nikisha Sales. And then we also threw in Lynn Bria, who coached at UCF, was the last UCF women's basketball head coach to win a double, conference regular season and tournament, back in 1999 when UCF was in the TAC, now the ASUN. She's been at Stetson now for 13 years and has become their all-time winningest head coach. Who knows? There's a lot of options out there. There's no shortage of people who are interested in this job, including 2 more Eric Lopez that you've just recently heard about.
Yeah, I mean, the 2 new names that people are making the rounds, the coaching circle, if you will, as they like to say. Susie Gardner, I believe is her name, the head coach at Mercer, who has ties to Abe. I think they were teammates at one point during their basketball careers. Has had success at Mercer in the state of Georgia, Jeffrey. You might be familiar there. They've had good success.
I'm a little
there
too
Mercer.
familiar with Mercer, them having been in UCF's conference all those years ago.
How many years ago was that, actually?
They've been in the ASUN. They were in the ASUN when we left, so 2005.
Right.
They had a road game against them this year too, did they not?
I don't remember. I'll have to pull it up on the schedule, but yeah,
So-
I know we played Mercer fairly recently. But go ahead, Eric.
Well, the other name has been floated out there is Shonda Rigby, the head coach at Troy. And this kind of makes sense. I think if you're Terry, I think you're going after a head coach with experience as a head coach because you're about to move to the Big 12. I'm not sure that they're interested necessarily in going with somebody with no head coaching experience when you're making this big of a move. I mean, think about the Gus Malzahn hire, and I think a big selling pitch there was you have a head coach with experience coaching in the Power 5. So it's a home run deal. Now, what does he do here in women's basketball? It's a little different. And what will draw him to get a coach over here? And is there, there's a lot of questions he's going to have to answer as far as the women's basketball program is moving forward. And it'll be interesting to see what they end up with. But those are 2 of the names that have been floated this week.
Susie Gardner has worked Mercer in the Southern Conference. It's taken her a while, but she's finally got them toward the top of that league. I like Rigby's resume, really interesting. Over at Troy, she took over in 2012 and built that program. They went from 7 wins to 12 to 20, 20, 22, 18, 22, 25, 22. Consistent, right? By the way, and Kyle, you were right. We did play at Mercer in Macon back on December the 12th. Now the other thing that would be pretty interesting with Rigby, She's more of an offensive coach. Bryson, you brought this up. Troy had the 6th best scoring offense in the country last season. So quite a shift from she would be quite a shift from the defensive-oriented Coach Abe team that we've seen the last 6 years to a more offensive-minded team. But if that's the direction you want to go, hey, go for it. The bottom line is there's a lot of interest for this job, and now the question becomes, who's the right person? What do you pay it? Eric, I want to go. Oh, go ahead, Kyle. Sorry.
Yeah. So you mentioned the right person too. A couple things I want to lay out too for clarity. For anybody shouting about, well, it's going to be the person that does defense most. Please keep in mind, confirmed WNBA draftees, Tay Sanders, Masani Kaba. I mean, we already knew they were gone, but they're
in the pool for the WNBA draft. Yeah.
Correct. And then now, of course, with Brittany Buckets, aka Brittany Smith, in the fold there too. A lot of that powerful element that was central to the successful post play being out of that piece, all you have now is Destiny Thomas. And really, I think for my money, there's no way you can predict this in the free agency world, as Eric Lopez calls it. But the part where Timo is in real trouble is your decision should probably be made based on Diamond Battles and what she's going to do. But we still don't know that yet necessarily.
Yeah, Brittany Smith, like you mentioned, did announce that she's now she did walk on senior day, and she's also, we found out earlier today, she graduated. She graduates this semester with her degree from the College of Health Sciences. They actually did a really nice tweet for her. Did you see that? That was pretty
I did.
Cool.
That was beautiful. Yes. And I love hearing about capable human beings joining the nursing pool. Pardon my bias, as my mom being a 40-plus year nurse herself. But yeah, from talking to the people around the program like I was, nobody knew what she was going to do. Maybe she'll come back. Maybe she'll transfer, always on the table. Maybe she'll just decide to become a nurse.
Maybe she's done.
Yeah, right. But here's the smart thing. The smart thing that she did was she entered the portal, because that gives her all the options. You know, It's not like the old days. Under the old days, pre-portal, she would have been screwed. Like, she would have had this, oh, okay, I got to see what this coach is about, and if I decide to leave, I may have to sit out a year, or maybe I just have to quit. She has all her options. She could go somewhere else and play, maybe in Athens, or...
Never do you mean?
I'm just throwing it out there.
How dare you?
I don't know why they would go there. Or she could just go into nursing. She has all her options. This is a good move for her. She's got to think about herself. It's a smart move. And anybody that's got a problem with that needs to check themselves, because if a coach can leave, a player has a right to leave, in my opinion. If a coach leaves, every player has the right to leave.
Oh, mobility is great. The only issue I have, Elo, is my 2-year-old had a lot of fun shouting Brittany Buckets at the television when she scored.
Well, I could tell you're taking between that and Abe leaving, you're taking this hard. Jeff, look at his hair. He's looked like he just went on a bender. Like he is. I mean, I'm so used to.
You can't see this, folks, because this is audio. But he's wearing an old ratty Mike Allstott Bucks jersey. Like the numbers are kind of like.
Look at him
off.
picking.
I'm not worried. I'm not worried about that. I'm worried about the hair. Normally his hair is top notch, first level, but it's all over the place.
Not in a suit.
No.
He normally dresses in a suit for podcasting.
And when I heard Abe left, I was worried about Kyle. Like last week on the podcast, I said 40%. I really meant 50-50, but Kyle was already mad at me during that show over the UConn debate and whether they had a shot to win that game or not. I didn't want him to Will Smith me and me play the role of Chris Rock. So I lowered it to 40% that she would leave instead of 50%. But now I could see it's been a hard week for you, Kyle, and many of the fans too.
First of all, I appreciate all of your consideration, sir. And I can assure you there will be no angry entanglements in any way, shape, form, or fashion associated therein. But no, I listen, man, I get it. I think there's a lot of people that kind of assume that there may be even some sort of bad blood between Timo and Coach Abe. I can't guarantee that myself, because I could see both sides of this argument in every way, shape, form, or fashion. I mean, listen, Timo, give Mohaj your credit by offering the counter that he did, which, if I remember correctly, and you guys will check me on this, was among the top 10
top 15
in the country.
Reported.
Top
That's Brandon
15,
Hellwig,
top
according to Brandon Hellwig, our friend from UCFsports.com, who reported that.
Oh, okay. Okay, fair enough. But what I can tell you is that doesn't sound to me like somebody who's bitter and trying to keep somebody in the program.
Let's revisit this, Kyle, because you and I were at her last press conference as a UCF Knight head coach, ironically enough, which we would have loved to talk to her, except the UConn media is a bunch of stooges and a bunch of stiffs, and are clueless about technology. But anyway, go to hell, UConn. Who is in the Final Four? What a shock. But what did she say? What did she say, Kyle, in that presser? She was ticked off about where they were seated because of the RPI. They were in the top 10 in the RPI. They had a great net ranking. They got sent back to UConn. It's like, I didn't want to be here. Why are we playing?
I think it's more that than the ranking than anything else. I mean, she mentioned the ranking, sure, but
I was part of the equation, and she said this might be the greatest team I ever have here.
Yeah.
She was emotional by her standards.
She has that in common with North Carolina State, by the way. But anyway, go ahead.
Right. I mean, they got screwed even worse. But anyway, so she has this emotional. I mean, for her, she snapped. Like, I've known her for 6 years. For her, that snapping. I'm not saying that we didn't enjoy it. I'm just saying she was ticked off. You get 2 days later, and this is how crazy this stuff was, Kyle. The Georgia, as Jeff mentioned at the Open, the Georgia coach takes the Texas A&M job. When we were recording the podcast last week, I got a text before we were recording that Georgia had singled out the Ole Miss head coach, who used to be the Jacksonville head coach, Yolette McPhee-McEwen. Ole Miss
musical chairs within the SEC.
Right. It's just what they like. We like to take our own.
It's like
she was the number one choice. She was going to be the first choice. Ole Miss matched it, though. Ole Miss matched it quickly. She stayed. Georgia then turned their attentions to Abe, and this is like 2-3 days later. And once you got on the plane, it was pretty much a fait accompli. I mean, Georgia, the SEC has a ton of money. This is not about her salary, though. And you and I have talked about this, Kyle, off the air.
Right. It's
not just about the salary. Everybody focuses on the head coach's salary because that's what gets public, that's clicks and all that. But it's about the staff. It's about the resources. It's about facilities. That's everything that Georgia can offer that UCF right now cannot. And that's a tough spot. That's not Terry's fault. That's just reality. UCF's in a position right now. We're trying to get out of the American to go to the Big 12. You're gonna have to cost some money. And then you don't have a ton of people donating to the university, which Terry's trying to push. And then women's basketball ain't the only sport in UCF that needs facility upgrades or needs facility or this or that. Everybody needs something. Terry's in a tough spot that people don't realize in that regard. So I understand both sides of this.
Totally. Yeah. I love the point you're making about the facilities. I think UCF moving to the Big 12 can be tantamount to countries preparing to host the Olympics or the World Cup, right? You need to upgrade facilities to endure or function in that new surrounding. Now, the difference is the Olympics is basically kind of a one-time event, typically speaking, but this is going to be a lifetime change for the UCF, and they want to get a good foot in there, early to make sure all that's built. And credit to Georgia in targeting Abe, not only for her success. Anybody could look at the record and be like, yeah, she's pretty good, but understanding that her team and the players in her makeup are basically comparatively gutted. Not to say that there aren't good pieces currently on there. Yeah, I know, pending NIL, Elo, you don't have to tell me, with Destiny Thomas, Lisha Lewis, and Diamond Battles, but that a lot of what makes Coach Abe basketball function, those players that I had the biggest part to do with that I would argue in Brittany, Mossany, especially, as well as Tay, are out the door now.
Yeah.
Two things. Right, two key things. Coach Abe has never been to the Sweet 16 as a head coach. I think that also, she was close this Monday. Mm-hmm. Georgia gives her more opportunities to get to the Sweet 16 and beyond. I think she realized, if I want to beat Gino, if I want to beat Dawn Staley and South Carolina, if I want to beat Kim Mulkey and LSU, I need to have what they have. I can't go into this fight with a water pistol. I'm going to go in with machine guns.
You need to Georgia consistently.
Well, two of those coaches you mentioned are in the same conference,
right? But you're going against the best. And Jeff, you've tweeted about this, and you two have discussed this at length on this program about the men's basketball and the lack of resources and finances, budgets. That applies to women's basketball.
100%.
That's a concern going into the Big 12. Is will you have enough to compete in the Big 12? A lot of people assume that Abe would just flourish there right from day one. I disagree. I think that was going to be a big adjustment, because everybody spends money in basketball in the Big 12. And that's, we'll see what happens in the future. It's hard because Terry's like, I don't have money that I can't guarantee you. I can't guarantee you anything because I don't know what I have.
Well, I want to bring this point up because we talked about this before. I think, I had a tweet a couple weeks ago that made some waves comparing UCF's funding on the men's basketball program to the rest of the American. Now, UCF is basically second or third to last in the American in men's basketball funding. Now, women's basketball, different story. All right, I looked at some data from the Department of Education from the 1920 fiscal year. UCF's
2020.
Spring of 2020.
Right.
UCF's budget, or I shouldn't say operating budget. I should say expenses, money that flew out from the women's basketball program, about $2.9 million. Third in the American behind Temple and SMU, who are both around 3.4, 3.5. All right. There's a bunch of schools kind of in that 2.5 to 3.0 range. Memphis, Cincinnati, South Florida, Wichita State. So, UCF is holding pretty good in terms of the American. But let's look at the Big 12 now.
Yes. I was going to make this point if you do it.
Yeah, and I wanted let's see if okay. And credit to Trace Stroka who asked me. I was going to look it up anyway, but $2.9 million in terms of expenses is fourth from the bottom in the soon-to-be Big 12. The other three schools behind UCF, the other newcomers, Cincinnati, Houston, BYU dead last, interestingly enough. By the way, the top teams in the Big 12, there's two at the very top. Baylor at $8.3 million. 3 times what UCF pays. TCU at $7 million. And then there's a gap, and then you have West Virginia at 4.3. There's a group of 4. West Virginia, Kansas State, Iowa State, Texas Tech, all around, all a little bit over $4 million. Then there's another gap, Kansas at 3.3, Oklahoma State at 3.3, UCF at basically 2.9. So that's, now, the gap, not as big as it would be in men's, but there's a gap. So
it's a big gap, yeah.
So how do you fill that gap? Now, Terry has put forth the Mission 12 statement. He is here to make that big push for fundraising heading into the Big 12. Now, there was a little consternation a little bit from what I hear about a lot of football stuff in there, not a mention of basketball. Danny White, in his big facility presentation, he put forth a new basketball center. That was not there in this particular presentation. That doesn't mean it's not there, but we're starting to see the rubber kind of meet the road here in terms of, okay, how heavy is this lift going to be as we head into the Big 12? Eric, you were talking about the outlays that are going to happen with the fees of joining the Big 12 and also leaving the American. I think that those are short-term expenses. I think that the big thing here is going to be, what are your long-term financial fundraising commitments? Because
where is it coming from? Where is it coming from? Because
where's it going to come from? Because there's a gap. There are gaps in all sports, but basketball is the one where this should be a real revenue sport for UCF. And
if there's enough interest, and I think there's a big question whether there is enough interest in basketball at UCF. This is not just a UCF issue. I mean, you look at Florida State, they just got a new AD, arguably the best women's soccer head coach in that sport. 3 national titles, 11 college cups, just resigned abruptly, in part because the AD basically told them, we're going to double down and put all the money into football to fix it because we're sick of losing. So sorry, you're not going to get more money. And so what you have...
That's a shocking move, by the way. That was a shocking
bombshell. In soccer terms, that's a bombshell, and it would not surprise me. Don't be surprised if you see more moves at Florida State as far as the Olympic coaches leaving, moving down the road, because there's a lot of success they've had there. But the problem is, a lot of the boosters, let's be honest, there's that audience, and it's here at UCF too. It's like, I only care about football. I don't care about the other sports. I don't want to spend money on women's basketball. I don't want to spend money on softball. I don't want to spend on this. I want football, 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 football. You have that, and those people are more likely to donate money than, say, a women's basketball person or a men's basketball person. That's the problem. That's the dilemma that Terry's in. You have to please who brings you the money. Now, I personally think there's a way to balance all that out, but it's not an easy job. And it's not easy.
Well, go ahead, Kyle. I'm sorry.
Just the quick point I want to make. Yeah, I think you both explained it very clearly, that the lack of a explanation or a presentation regarding basketball facilities, it could either be a bad sign for those sports, or it could very simply have been a marketing decision,
Yeah, that's a good point.
And here's the difference. At Georgia, they may or may not care about women's basketball, but they have the money. So she's going to get, they're going to make over $100 million as a school. The SEC does a great job, and they don't get credit for this because people don't like them, and that's fine. But they do a good job of spreading that money to all their sports. The Big Ten makes just as much money as the SEC. They don't spread it out. And UCF is not in a position where they can maybe spread it out as much as they would like. And again, there's a debate. Is women's basketball even the most? I mean, some would argue women's basketball is the fourth most popular women's sport at UCF, behind.
Well, you've made the case before that, like, softball right now, in terms of women's sports nationally, is becoming the marquee women's college sport in terms of media attention, in terms of revenue, and say what you want about success on the basketball floor. I think that's a we've seen volleyball also make a lot of headway in comparison to basketball of late. I think it's a very fair question. If you're Terry Mohajir and you're looking at the spreadsheets, where do you put your cards?
Right. That's the dilemma. That's a great way of describing it. And every school's different. If you're at UConn, you're going to put that money on women's basketball. You're not putting it at softball, right? And you're not putting it in volleyball. But there are, again, there's only so much money to go out. And softball is a red hot sport. We'll get into that in the next segment. But it's a hot sport on TV. It's a hot sport. I mean, UCF right now is drawing great attendance. They've made revenue this year. Volleyball, you and I have been to the venue and it's packed. Yep. And they've been drawing. Women's soccer draws, and they have the history and the tradition. Women's basketball is never drawn. It's never drawn. And I think it's hard to put so much money into that if you don't think you're going to get that money back, or at least come close to that. It's nobody's fault. It just is what it is. Not everybody's going to like every sport. Not everybody's going to follow every sport. But, that's what it is. But I will say this. Credit to the fans on this regard. I think everybody appreciated Abe, and rightfully so, for the job that she did. And I think we have to acknowledge that she did an incredible job. She's a first ballot UCF Hall of Famer. She's the greatest women's basketball head coach of all time in program history. And what she did was amazing. And I think a lot of people I saw on social media, I think, thanked her for that and appreciate it. And I hope that people understand why she left. And I for one will be a Georgia Bulldog fan next year, women's basketball. I hope she does well. I think she was fantastic to me. She was fantastic to you, Jeff. She was fantastic to you, Kyle. Yeah. She was fantastic. Iconic. She represented the school well. Yeah. And they did, what was it? Those coaches, what do they call that, Jeff? The tour, the Knights tour they do. Where all the coaches.
I know what you're talking about.
Abe was always there, and she was one that would always talk to fans. And even though fans, a lot of people say, well, I don't care about women's basketball. I don't go to games. People focus on that. But you and I have gotten feedback on the podcast. There's a lot of UCF fans that maybe don't care about women's basketball, but that doesn't mean they don't want them to do well. They want to know what's going on. That's why they listen. We've gotten a lot of feedback about that. Hey, we appreciate you keeping us updated on what's going on elsewhere. Because anybody can cover football. Everybody can get information on football. But what about what's going on with my women's basketball program? What's going on with this? And I think Abe connected with a lot of casual people that I don't think anybody saw coming. And that's a credit to her.
Yeah. Go ahead, Kyle.
Yeah, no, I mean, first of all, I want to make sure we use the word iconic, because I think that's been spun as appropriate. Pardon my ego. But I'll add to this too. Like, there's not anybody else. I don't know if this is a thing that's possible or plausible in other venues, but literally after every home game, Coach Abe got on the mic and thanked everybody for coming out. I've not seen literally anybody else do that.
Yeah, I mean, we always did that. We always did that with her. We had a handheld mic for her every time. She always thanked the fans, thanked the players, thanked the band, thanked everything. That was her thing. Now, I wanted to say one other thing I wanted to is, I'm seeing a lot of panic in the fan base about, oh my gosh, we're going to go back to irrelevance in women's basketball right away. And I just want to caution everyone here. I don't think that it's fair to throw the baby out with the bathwater immediately on women's basketball, before the new coach has even been selected. All right. We don't know who Terry's got in the hopper. We don't know how they're going to fit at UCF. And I get it. It's uncharted waters here. But I mean, I'm seeing some people act like they've never been through a major head coaching change before. I don't think it's going to be fair to the new staff, whoever that may be, to give up on them right away, because it's at this point when they're going to need the most fan support.
But
right?
they're stepping. It's going to be a tough situation. Because,
no doubt. Listen,
it reminds me a lot of when Josh Heupel came in. No matter what Josh Heupel is going to do, it's not going to be as good as what Scott Frost did. And I do wonder if some of the fan base has the similar thinking, whoever the new head coach is, because I could see it now, a year from now. What if they lose to South Florida? Oh, Coach Abe didn't lose to South Florida last year. What's going on here?
Coach Abe did lose to South Florida the first couple of years, though.
Right, but that's how fans are. Would you not agree with that, Kyle?
I mean, no, you're always right. Nick Saban lost to Louisiana Monroe his first game in Alabama. Okay, it happens to new coaches, guys.
Yeah.
Right, but people always freak. I think people freak out. So we'll see what happens. We'll see who the new head coach is, and people will move on. But it's going to be a different team. It's going to be a different team, and we probably are going to be in for a rebuild / transitional year next year. Just is.
But I've said this. I've said this before, and people get mad at me when I say things like this, and I don't understand why, because it's true, and I think and I think that when you look at the kinds of institutions that UCF wants to be, you have to have this attitude that no one person or no coaching staff is bigger than the program. Yes, Coach Abe did some amazing things here. She showed that UCF women's basketball could be a national contender. That doesn't go away because she does. All right? You have to, as you look at Georgia, right? What do they believe in? They don't believe in just, they didn't believe in Andy Landers or whoever else was. They believed in the program. They believed in Georgia basketball, that Georgia basketball needs to be at this standard. All right? And that's where I hope our fans make that transition mentally to thinking less about, oh my God, we lost a coach, we're done, to, okay, get the next person in here. Let's keep the train moving, because we're UCF basketball and we should be at a particular place. And by the way, as we mentioned, part and parcel of that is the donations and getting UCF to a point where it can compete financially with the competition that it's going to face in the Big 12. Go ahead, Kyle.
Jeff, I'm getting an alert here. You talk about doubting the ability to continue to be a championship program. I'm seeing an alert. Diamond Battles has entered the chat. Listen, so long as she's still in the building, there's still a chance too. I know it's all.
I agree. But remember, like Diamond is a player.
Yeah.
Diamond is one player.
Right.
Even if she stays, and boy, I hope she does, because I love watching. Because
I know you just scared me, Kyle. I thought you were about to break some news that she was bolting.
That's what I thought too. I love Diamond. I love Diamond Battles. I love watching her play. She's just a joy to watch play. But whether she leaves or stays or whatever, remember, she's only got one more year to go.
Mm-hmm.
So,
but again, I will defend the fans on this. It's a credit to it tells you how much Abe made a difference, and people liked her. If they didn't like her, they wouldn't care. They wouldn't care.
Yeah.
So that's a compliment to her. I don't take it. I understand why people are apprehensive, because Coach Abe's don't grow on trees either. They hit Danny White hit the jackpot there. We'll see what happens here.
Yeah.
From that standpoint, but it's not an easy job. This is not in my opinion, this is not a glamorous job like some people think.
Yeah. And it's a big moment for Terry Mohajir, right?
It's a moment.
I think, it's that obviously, yes, we know he hired Gus Malzahn, right? But I think that this is actually, in some ways, a bit of a bigger moment for him in terms of hiring coaches, because
more difficult one at the least.
Yeah, because he kind of came in with a plan already, right? We kind of thought from right off the bat he was going to try and chase Gus because he had a connection to Gus from his time in Arkansas State.
Well, and football's a great job, and there's a lot to sell.
Great job. So now, but what's the sales job on UCF women's basketball?
Right. We don't know.
So, we don't know. Now, obviously, there's some numbers that have been put out there publicly. You better believe that there are agents who whoever Terry talks to are going to look at that and be like, so you were willing to offer this to your old head coach. Are you going to offer this to your new head coach too? That's out there for a reason, I think.
Yeah, but it's unique circumstances. You're trying to keep a coach, and he's going to hire who.
But you're also trying to hire somebody who's going to push you into the Big 12.
Sure.
And if there's one thing we know, it's we don't want to. The fans don't want to see UCF be embarrassed in any way, shape, manner, or form entering that conference. So this is a big hire. And by the way, there's a lot of coaches, I'm sure, out there who look at that.
But we also have to
look at UCF, and the first thing that they think of is they're going to the Big 12, which means I'm going to be able to win at a major level at this school with.
But it's also a challenge. It's not going to be easy, and we've discussed that about men's basketball. It's the same applies to women's basketball. It is not as easy as fans think either. Fans think we can, it's a challenge.
But I'll ask you, Eric. How many coaches have we known who've shied away from challenges? Really?
Oh no, coaches always think they can fix it. But if you ask me to rank all the UCF head coaching jobs of all the sports, I think basketball's at the bottom. I think it's a hard job. I really don't think Johnny Dawkins and Abe should get the credit they deserve. I don't think
I agree with that.
It's a hard job compared to what they're going up against. Resource, all that,
and the quality of the coming quality of the competition,
and what they're limited on what they can and cannot do. And it's nobody's fault. Everybody always assumes, well, why can't we just give them out? No, it's not that simple, because we're not an SEC school yet. We're not rich. We're not.
Yeah.
We have to be cost efficient.
I've thrown the numbers out there, and people don't, for some reason, are they look at them and they don't believe them. The UCF is near the bottom of the American in funding for men's basketball, and I talked earlier about how they were third in the American in women's basketball budget outlays. That's because Coach Abe fought tooth and nail her 6 years here
exactly
to get basketball to where it needed to get women's basketball to where it needed to be. So,
it's hard.
What happens next? What happens next?
It's hard, especially when you have football as your monster sport. It's hard. It's hard to be good at both. It really is, and let alone three sports. Can it be done? Yeah, but you need a lot of money and a lot of resources. And we're not there yet. And that's okay. We're not there yet. Maybe down the road we will.
Last word to you, Kyle.
Yeah, no, you mentioned money, resource, and all that. I think the right people is the important thing,
Absolutely.
And I mentioned it earlier, granted, I know this is more associated with their men's program than their women's one possibly, but the moment I heard Princeton as one of the, that coach being one of the replacements for Abe, I'm like, no, she abhors pretty ball. What are you people doing? No. And I make that joke to say, man, listen, you got to make sure that you're trying to keep a culture in the room, right? That's the toughest thing. We can talk about resources, this, that, the other thing. It starts first with the people and the surroundings and the belief and all that they do. Each and every one of those women were locked into basketball in a very, very special way.
Yeah. All right. Last thing I want to ask, Kyle, then Eric. Wave your magic wand. Who do you want to be the new coach?
I'm with the Mercer head coach idea.
Susie Gardner.
Yeah, you mentioned that former teammate. You can't do better than that. She learned the game in a similar fashion to Abe at some level, and also appreciates defense. I think that's the starting level for my money on where you go. It's as close. If you're trying to keep it with the Abe tree, so to speak, that's a good way to do it. Now, Should Destiny Thomas transfer this time tomorrow? I might change my mind.
Man, you're gonna need a therapist, man. We're gonna
don't you even joke about Desto. I will Smith,
oh boy.
son.
Oh no.
God.
That's gonna be
Stop
hard. Stop
it. I would like to not get canceled. Eric, what about you?
All right, I'm a little biased. I don't think it'll happen, but if it was up to me, I go Limbria Stetson. Why? She's already in the state. She's already in the region. We talk about lack of resources. They don't have any in Stetson, and she still wins. And I'm thinking, man, imagine if she had UCF resources instead of Stetson resources.
She had UCF's resources, but it was 25 years ago.
Yeah, the resources weren't that good back then. I don't think she had an arena like they do now. And I do know for a fact she was a finalist the last time this job was open. Obviously, Danny went with Abe, rightfully so. But Lynn has supporters internally, but I don't think that will work. I think they're going to go a little younger on the coaching front. But I like Lynn Bree a lot. I think she has the personality. I think she knows how to win. She knows how to coach, and it'd be kind of unique. But I don't know if they'll go that route. I think Kyle is right. They're probably going to go somewhere like a Mercer Troy type of a head coach somewhere else direction there, and we'll see how that goes.
I was the one who put together that purely 100% speculative list, so I'm a little bit biased here. But one coach who was brought to my attention who was actually in the mix for Georgia, who I forgot to mention, Tamikia Reed at Jackson State, but I think she's going to be really hard to pull out of there because of the Dion effect. But I would love to see you talked about culture, Carla Berube, and I know you scoffed at Princeton. That ain't no pretty ball that she coaches up at Princeton. That team was sixth in the nation in defense.
Like I said, it's mostly associated with the men's side of the program. Let me be clear on that.
I should say fourth in the nation, and I should correct myself. Fourth in the nation in defense. Comes from the Geno family tree. And of course I'm a little partial because I remember watching her play at UConn. But
we're all biased there.
Hey, look, listen. Here's the thing. A lot of good options.
I just want the next head coach, as long as Kyle is happy and he gets his hair fixed again and he shaves, I just want Kyle to be back to being Kyle. I'm worried about you. I feel like you need a hug. We got to give you a hug. I know it's been tough.
You never called me by my first name, Eric.
I know. As Robin Williams, the late, great Robin Williams said at Goodwill Hunting to Matt Damon, it's not your fault.
Not your fault. All right. We will be all over the story once whoever UCF's new head coach breaks, whenever that may be. Eric, do you have any idea when it might go? Eric,
I would think next week. By next week, I would think
early next week.
Some point next week. I'm not going to say early. Maybe next week. Let's shoot for next week.
All right, it's Easter weekend, so. Bryson.
Breaking news.
A little breaking news. We can strike one person off the list. Dawn Plitzu-White from South Dakota, who is on my list, just got hired at West Virginia.
Still going to the Big 12, apparently.
Big 12.
Big 12, yeah. Hey, listen, man, we're in the neighborhood. We're in the neighborhood there,
Maybe we helped her got the job by putting her on the list. They put pressure on West Virginia to make a move.
Maybe. Bryson,
feel better, Kyle.
Informs us that his choice is Shonda Rigby from Troy. That's his choice. So, hey. And Rigby, I like Rigby's resume too. All right. Come back. Bryson's going to actually talk in the next segment. And where we talk a little baseball, a little softball with Eric. How about softball? Eric Lopez.
Top 20.
Doing what they did
we need a new scoreboard, by the way. We just need a new scoreboard, too.
Just matadoring the South Florida Bulls and Georgina Corrick this week. So we'll talk about that and a lot more when we return. Oh, by the way, Kyle Nash, the SOTG, for the student of the game on Twitter. Make sure you follow him as he goes through the 7 stages of grief with the departure of Coach Abe.
Don't get on a plane to Athens, Kyle. Whatever you do, don't get on a plane.
Listen.
Go ahead.
Kyle, I know how to get around Flight Tracker, okay?
Yeah.
I'm not going to allow it. Don't get on that plane.
Hey, listen, my car is still full of gas. No. Listen, guys, as I sit here with my gallon of ice cream tucked under my arm, wiping tears from my cheeks, apparently.
Watching Titanic on your television screen.
Oh,
right?
God, no, there's a line, please.
There's a line, and I think you've crossed it.
With all your support, and despite my jealousy for Eric and his first name basis with Coach Abe, it was an honor, joy, and privilege. And until next time, gentlemen, class dismissed.
All right, we'll be right back.
Enjoy Pro Day.
Podcast. Yeah, have fun at Pro Day. We'll see you on Friday. We're back after this. We are back here on the Black and Gold Banneret Podcast. Eric Lopez and Jeff Sharon here with you, and along with us, Bryson Turner is popping in to talk about what is going on with the world of UCF sports running around. We'll talk about baseball and softball, but I wanted to dive in and talk softball first with Eric Lopez here. Man, what a weekend for UCF softball as they started conference play. This was what we were looking forward to, Eric, was UCF against USF in Tampa, war on I-4, Georgina Corrick, the whole nine, and UCF walks into Tampa and just takes the Bulls to the woodshed. 5-2, 7-2, 3-0. Corrick started, I think, 2 of the 3. Is that right?
Yeah, she started the Friday and the Sunday game.
Friday and the Sunday, got beat both times. But understand something, folks. This is a pitcher who had given up 3 earned runs all season, and UCF scored 8 on her in 2 games. And UCF gets the sweep in Tampa. The softball team is now 29-8, and Eric, they are now very much in the conversation for potentially hosting a regional.
Yeah. I mean, 2 things from that. They've never swept USF in softball in a series before. They accomplished that. Pretty much ending, in my opinion, USF's done as far as the regular season title is concerned because they're 3 back of UCF plus the tiebreaker. They're not making up 4 games to UCF, even if it's this early in conference play. So that's number 1. That's the most important thing. You want to win a ring. UCF hasn't won a conference title since 2015. Number 2, you mentioned the hosting thing. They're number 12 in the latest RPI. In fact, I just checked with my RPI source. Despite the loss to Florida on Wednesday, they're still 12. So that's good. Unfortunately, they lost to Florida to end the 18-game win streak.
Lost in Gainesville, but Florida's ranked 7th in the country. And
yeah, I mean, that's
and
no
I think
slouch.
they're 12th, or they were, no, I'm sorry, they were 13th in the latest RPI.
Yeah.
And UCF was 12th. And
Correct.
I guess it's basically like battling them to a draw almost, even though UCF got beat.
They got lost a bad 1 inning again. The second inning has been the bugaboo for UCF against Florida. Gave up 6 runs in the second inning, dug themselves a hole they couldn't dig out of. In the 2 games against Florida this year, they were outscored 13-3 in the second inning. You take that away, they've outscored them every inning. It's crazy. But it is what it is. So they're in the mix. Now they've got a marquee series hosting number 5 Virginia Tech. It's not going to get easier. If you think Georgina Corrick is not the best pitcher, then the answer might be Keely Richard of Virginia Tech, who comes in. She's an All-American. She's the second best pitcher ever at Virginia Tech behind Angela Tincher. They have a freshman pitcher that might be the best freshman pitcher in the country. They have a balanced offense that's hitting .328. I think they're a national title contender. I think they're a World Series contender in Virginia Tech.
So does the RPI, because the RPI's got Virginia Tech at 3rd, and they're 25-3.
Correct. And
Wow.
so it's a big home series for UCF, and it's important because when the resume standpoint, and this is where teams like UCF run into have a disadvantage against teams like the SEC, because after this weekend, UCF has no more games against the top 50 team RPI-wise until Wichita State at the end of the regular season. They need to pick up wins here because they currently have 10 top 50 wins, which is important. They need to have 10 or more wins in the top 50 to have a shot. I'll explain this more in detail in the coming weeks why that is. But they need to improve, keep pushing this resume, because the Floridas of the world, because they play in the SEC, every weekend they're going to play a top 50 team. So they're going to continue to increase their resume, and that's where teams like UCF have a disadvantage. So this is a big series for them from a hosting standpoint, because this, in a lot of ways, is their final statement. From that standpoint of, hey, from a non-conference standpoint, if we beat Virginia Tech 2 out of 3, for example, that keeps them in the mix for hosting. And then obviously you got to run roughshod in the league play.
Well, I think what you're talking about, like with regard to the RPI and how it works, I don't think it's so much Florida who's going to get that big of a bump from it, but it's going to be the teams that are below UCF that are going to get a bump. So you're talking right now 17 Auburn, 19 LSU, 21 Arkansas. I know these are the RPI rank. 22 Georgia, 27 Mississippi. Then 5 SEC teams in a row from 27 to 31. Yep. Mississippi State, Ole Miss, South Carolina, Mizzou, Texas A&M. Those are the teams that are going to get a boost. Where UCF is going to be stuck playing. I'm looking at the schedule.
It's going to be close.
North Florida after Virginia Tech. All right, North Florida, Memphis, ECU, Houston, Tulsa, and then the series, and then the season-ending series with Wichita at Wichita. So yeah, I mean that's you gotta front load your slate. This is why scheduling is so important. You got to front load your schedule with all those top 50s and hope that those teams you scheduled end up being in the top 50 by the time everybody gets to conference play.
And that's why a program like softball will be one of the bigger benefactors from going to the Big 12, because you won't have to worry about this when you get to the Big 12, because you're going to face more top 50 teams in the Big 12 than you do in the American. I mean, that's just reality on that. So we'll see. Look, Gianna Mancha outpitched Corrick. I thought that was big. Their offense, Kennedy Searcy, is playing well. I actually think the Florida loss is not the end of the world. They were going to lose at some point. Sometimes you need a kind of a reset button there, and they got a few days to practice before they get Virginia Tech on Sunday and then Monday, and that's going to be a big series. It's a big series for them, and we'll learn a lot about them. I think a week from now, if they win that Virginia Tech series, even if they only win a game against Virginia Tech, they're going to stay in the mix to host all year. If they get swept by Virginia Tech, then now you're like, well, maybe they're not going to host. We're probably going back to Gainesville. But either way, remember, this team has to win the league, because if you don't win the league, it doesn't matter. You're not going to. So that's the big goal. And the big thing was they swept South Florida and took out one of their main threats from the race. That's the big takeaway to me of this last handful of days.
Jada Cody watch. She has 53 runs batted in, which is 8 ahead of Bailey Klinger of Washington, who is in second place nationally. So Jada continues to knock in runs, man. She just continues to do this. Do you expect that to continue?
Yes. She's 13 behind Stephanie Best's all-time record of 66.
She should easily pass that. You would think, right?
If she stays healthy, got to stay healthy.
True.
But if you look at their schedule after Virginia Tech, a lot of favorable matchups as far as pitching is concerned. So they have an opportunity to produce a lot of runs. She's having a heck of a year. She's making a strong case to be the second NFCA All-American all-time in program history, behind obviously Shelby Turner, who did it in 2015. Shelby was a top 10 national player of the year. I think Jada it'll be interesting. In a couple of weeks, they're going to announce the top 25 finalists for player of the year. I'll be curious if Jada makes that list, because I think she should. Will she? We'll see. But I think she should be in that mix. But she definitely has a great shot to be an All-American at the level that she's playing if she maintains this.
Just a sophomore, man.
Yeah,
just a sophomore. Yeah, boy, that's a lot of fun.
Hey, don't forget Shannon Doherty. She's just a sophomore too. We have a dynamic duo.
Oh, by the way, she's doing her own part too. I mean, she's playing. She protects her. She's right behind her. They have a great 1-2 punch. That's the best 1-2 punch offensively UCF's had, maybe in program history, with her and Doherty. Kind of that. They're the
Stephanie Best and Janae Shinoster would like a word on that.
Well, I agree. They were great. But what's funny is Doherty and Cody are right now, career-wise, second and third in a lot of the power categories behind Stephanie. It's insane what they're doing. And they're young. They're still young. So, but the big thing is you got Kennedy Searcy hitting in front of both of them, getting on base. You got Janisha Rowe getting on base. The key for this offense, though, is the bottom of the order still has to continue to produce. And if they do that, they'll be fine. And then you got Mancha and Woodall pitching. It's very important to note, by the way, neither Mancha or Woodall pitched against Florida on Wednesday. So that's why I wouldn't panic over that result. From that standpoint, I think Coach Ball Malone wanted to give Grace Jewell that opportunity, pitch somebody that Florida hasn't seen didn't work out. Grace did not get any help defensively behind her. There was a couple of miscues there. But, that's something that, just happens that way. So they'll move on. We got Virginia Tech this weekend. It's a huge, huge series. It's a big, big series. I mean, there's no other way of underlining it. We're going to learn a lot this weekend because Virginia Tech's legit.
Water under the bridge now, because you talked about Virginia Tech. Doubleheader Sunday, 2-4, and then the third game of the series Monday at 6. You're on ESPN Plus for those, Eric?
That's right. Me and Francesca Anea will be on the call. We'll also have sideline reporters throughout that series. We're breaking the bank. We're covering it on all angles there for arguably the marquee series of the weekend in college softball, and I appreciate that the networks didn't pick it up, so thank you.
I've watched a lot of softball coverage for UCF, both on the road, at home. Of all the sports that are out there, softball coverage on ESPN Plus for UCF, and by the way, we do a great job on all sports. It's the best in the American, no doubt. And it's light years better than a lot of Power 5 schools that I've seen. No doubt.
It is.
On ESPN Plus. In-house production. It looks like a marquee ESPN game.
Well, and the big thing, too, softball fans from across the country, of all people, adapted to ESPN Plus the fastest. They know that's the home for softball. ESPN basically runs softball. They pretty much produce softball. They broadcast softball. That's their baby. I mean, I just wrote an article on one of the softball sites I freelance for. The Arkansas LSU game on Saturday night and Sunday beat head-to-head the National Hockey League on TNT, beat the MLS, and beat the majority of the women's NCAA tournament first couple of rounds games and the Sweet 16 game between Texas High. It's a hot product. And the softball fans are used to streaming sports, whereas I think basketball fans, you would agree, Jeff, and football fans have had a hard time adjusting to the streaming world. It's like, why is this game streamed? I'm used to having it on ESPNU. I'm used to ESPN2. The softball fan has been always used to having the game streamed on the stream. The one thing I wish we could fix, and it's above my head, because I did get emails, messages about this during the Florida game. The Florida game was on SEC Network Plus. A lot of people try to log in like if they were going to ESPN Plus to get SEC Network Plus. That doesn't work. You need a cable subscription to have SEC Network Plus, or I don't know. I don't think that's not available. How, Jeff, you know more about the internet side of things. How do you get SEC Network Plus? I don't know if you can get it if you don't have a cable subscription. If you have SEC Network Plus,
it also depends on the cable subscription that you have. It varies from carrier to carrier.
Right.
So some, if you have Hulu TV, like if you're like me, a cord cutter, you got something like Hulu TV Plus, or you have YouTube TV, you may have to subscribe to the sports tier and then you get SEC Network Plus. But if you're a normal subscriber to Spectrum, that may also have to be the case. They may also just not enable you to carry it at all if you're like not in an SEC market. Now Orlando's an SEC market, but I'm not familiar with what Spectrum has. But
I have it.
It's a little bit more. Oh, you do have it. Okay,
I do have it, but you can't subscribe. You can't log into the same login that you would use for ESPN Plus, because ESPN Plus is exclusively
right.
ESPN, and I think some people still
view it through ESPN Plus. You view it through Watch ESPN, which is still a thing.
Right, exactly. Yeah. And I think that's still confusing for a lot of the customers. So I think that
I wish ESPN would streamline that. They should streamline that.
Yes.
So
I think that's a fair. I think that's fair.
All right.
But thank you for tuning in, everybody.
Yes. Sunday doubleheader, 2 p.m. Monday, 6 p.m. Number 5 Virginia Tech. Be there. UCF softball. All right. Over to baseball.
Top 20 showdown.
Here we go. Baseball. Let's get Bryson up in here because,
he's been soul searching while we've been talking softball. Bryson's been soul searching.
We will talk about that.
Doherty.
Right now, UCF is at 15-10 as they begin conference play this weekend at home against South Florida. Last weekend, another difficult weekend for UCF baseball. Lost 2 out of 3 to Samford, including 1 in 10 innings. Both the games they lost by 1 run. Before they run-ruled Samford on Sunday to salvage 1 out of the 3, 11-1. Pulled it together, though, Tuesday night at home against FAU for a 13-1 victory over the Owls. So 2-2 this week, again, kind of treading water a little bit at 15-10. Feels like they left a couple on the board against Samford, though. Bryson, what were your big takeaways from the weekend?
Well, I think Greg Lovelady really said it best. The team I think the team just went through the ringer in in the first two games against Stanford. When you lose by one run in completely different circumstances, and you easily could have prevented it, it's going to really eat at you a little bit. Look, if you just look at this. So on Friday's game, the offense ended up coming up to bite him again. We've talked before about how the offense has just not gotten to a good start as a total unit, and they showed that again against Samford. You know, they went 10 innings. They just couldn't get any more runs, and Samford was able to come back with a 2-run home run in the 8th to tie the game. So that ended up happening. Luckily, the bats did get better for the game against Saturday. The only problem is that then the pitching ended up giving out at the wrong times. Samford ended up getting 3 runs in the first. UCF was able to fight their way back, tie the game in the 4th inning, and then Samford went and got 3 runs again in the 5th inning. So then they had to basically drudge their way back up again to get it within 1 run in the 8th. And then Samford got an RBI double and got another run to go up too. So that one was it was kind of a 1 step forward, 2 steps back sort of game. And one pitch just could end up changing everything in that one. It was after that game that Greg Lovely made this comment.
You know, we got a lot of soul searching to do, a lot of, just figuring out, what kind of team we want to be. You know, we the last couple of weeks, we just have gone away from our plan that we've had since August. That, obviously we have done a really good job of preparing and putting ourselves in good situation. And again, there were some tough losses early in the year, but, just really we're executing what we all had been working on, what really the players had laid down and what they wanted to do, and we've gotten away from that, and that's on me. That's my fault. I've allowed it, and we're just we scuffled. Obviously the injuries, and I think that we've just kind of maybe hit the panic button a little bit, and just gotten away from what has made us really, really good. And this isn't the team that we were 3 weeks ago. This isn't the team that I know we can be, and we gotta figure out a way to get back to where we are, where we were, because we're way better than what we played, and we just gotta be tougher. We gotta come out tomorrow and really change the trajectory of the season. Tomorrow's gonna be a big game, and it's not about winning and losing, but just about how we play and the energy that we bring and the belief that we have, to knowing that we're way better than this.
And that was Greg Lovelady after Saturday's 7-6 loss to Samford. You can see the full interview along with plenty of other interviews on the Black and Gold Banneret YouTube channel, and subscribe for the latest. So, yeah, as you can see, as Greg Lovelady said, this team wasn't what it was at the start of the season. I mean, when you look back there, the offense was hopping, the pitching was off to a good start, and some of that does have to do with injuries. One of the things that not mentioned in the clip, but is in another interview with Lovelady on the Banneret YouTube channel after FAU, he talked about how Connor Stain is working his way back. We should definitely be seeing him against USF. David Litchfield is working out, so we could see him. We know that Hunter Patterson will not pitch. We know that for sure. He will not pitch against USF, which is why he started William Saxton against FAU for 2 innings. So I think we could possibly see him. So the point there is that the injuries have really hit this team hard again. Unfortunately, it's just more on I think it's both on the pitching and the batting side this time. Luckily, they were able to put it together. Were able to turn it around. They got the win again on Sunday. The issue with that I have though is that they run ruled Sanford, but they got 8 runs in the last inning, and a lot of them came off of bases loaded walks and hit by pitches with the bases loaded. That win to me, at least by how the big a deficit as it is, at least, is not because the team maybe turned it around. It's because Sanford just imploded. And I mean, it's a win's a win. I think that obviously the morale boost is great. And there were some people that were still getting good hits. Noah Orlando and Andrew Sundin. I mean, they have been revelations on this team offensively. Noah and Andrew have done very, very well offensively to fill in for Nick Romano and Riley Wash. But unfortunately, you need more offense. And luckily, I think they showed that a little bit against FAU. The big thing is can they sustain that against USF, who has some of the better individual players in the conference statistically? You have Jack Josiak and Orion Kirkering in the pitching. You have Drew Butcher, who's batting .370, top 5 in the league. So I think that the big test right now is going up against this USF team that, remember, did steal the conference championship away last season.
Yeah, so a little bit of revenge there for these 3 games against South Florida to start the conference season. South Florida has won 6 in a row coming in, including they won 2 out of 3 against Mercer, who's receiving votes in the top 25. This is a pretty good hitting South Florida team. They're hitting .283 on the year. They've scored 192 runs. That's top 30 in the country, or 32nd in the country, I should say. And you mentioned their 2 key pitchers. Orion Kirkering is scheduled to go on Friday. Game 2, they don't know yet. Brad Lord scheduled to go on Sunday. So Friday, Saturday, Sunday, April 1, 2, and 3, 6, 6, and 1 p.m. respectively on ESPN Plus for South Florida, who comes in 18-7 on the year as we start conference play. So this
wide open league this
wide
year.
Open.
Everybody's down. This has been a bizarre year, Jeffrey. You've covered the league for a long time. I've covered it. This is the weakest that the American has been in baseball in a long time. You realize they're ranked 9th as a conference in the RPI. This is a league that's used to being in the top 5. They're going to have to fight to be a multi-bid league this year. It's really bizarre. Everybody's just not done great in non-conference for various reasons. So the good news for UCF in that regard is there's not that East Carolina team from the past that's like, man, this is their league.
Hey,
to lose.
ECU this year, the preseason favorite, 14-12 overall.
Yeah, it's been a really strange year. I don't think anybody has any idea what to expect in the American this year. I think this is the most unpredictable year for the league in baseball. You could tell me it's wide open. And so if you're UCF, if you could just get healthy, if you could get Patterson back and healthy with Connor Stain, anybody can win this league. You can win this league.
It may very well, Eric, come down to that last series. UCF is home against Cincinnati for that last series.
It's wide open.
It's going to be crazy. Absolutely crazy. So, again, those 3 games will be on ESPN Plus, UCF and USF, to kick off the conference season in the American. They have a midweek this week?
They do.
Florida Atlantic in Boca Raton on Tuesday. So, another game to keep an eye on before UCF goes on that's the first of a 5-game road trip, by the way, too. UCF goes to Memphis next weekend.
Important to get off to a good start in league play. Don't dig yourself a hole. This USF series is huge. I think the winner of this series got to feel pretty good about being in the mix to be a conference title contender. And if you're UCF, you got to get off to a good start. But the question is, can they get healthy in time to click? We'll see. This team has historically in the past played their best baseball at the end.
Yeah.
Hopefully they can get an example of that.
Right. Kind of like a football example. You don't want to get behind the chains in conference play. You know, if you can get the key is always going to be 2 out of 3. You get 2 out of 3, you should be in good shape going forward. Any sweeps you get, your bonus, but you don't want to lose. You don't want to drop 2 out of 3 at home for sure. Track and field. Florida relays are coming up this weekend. Bryson, We saw Renaya Jones take to the track for the first time in the outdoor season this week. What were the takeaways that you had from the most recent meet for UCF, the Knights Invite this past weekend?
Well, Renaya Jones obviously is doing Renaya Jones things. She managed to, at the time, she tied the national record with her 13.08 time in the 100-meter hurdles. Like, it was the top time in the country at the time. Since then, she's fallen back down. It's still 11th, which is great, absolutely great, and a great starting time for this season, but she did well there. She also has the 11th fastest time in the 100-meter dash. And if you go on the Black and Gold Banneret YouTube channel, you can see the interview that the press conference that she did with the media after the Knights Invite, where she talked about how she wanted to be a better sprinter this season. So I think that if that, for her wanting to do that, that start in the 100-meter dash is certainly a good sign to do that. And she said she's going to run the 200-meter dash at the Florida relays. Elsewhere, Dana Boone said that someone that may go under the radar to keep an eye on, Kyle Williams. She ran the 17th fastest 400 meters in the country during the Black and Gold Invite. We also have Adrian Adams. She managed to break the discus throw record that has stood since 2010.
Yeah, Lakendra Thames, who I covered Lakendra when I was there. Lakendra is one of, honest to God, shout out to Lakendra. I don't know if she listens. I hope she does. One of my favorite athletes who I ever covered, the throw athletes and the field athletes that I covered at UCF at that time. Jessica Francis, Lakendra, April Downey. I had a blast covering them. They were so much fun, and it makes me happy to see Lakendra be recognized. It makes me sad that her record fell, but hey, congrats to Adrian Adams. Job well done.
Oh yes,
she won the Field Athlete of the Week too, right?
Yes, she was. She was Field Athlete of the Week for the American Athletic Conference. And look, for how much we've been loving on like the track side of this, because I mean, you have Renaya Jones, you have Brittany, you have Latasha Smith, you have Kyle Williams that I just talked about. You have a lot of people that this track team has produced that are just doing amazing, but the field athletes can go a little underappreciated. And I think Adrian Adams really shows what those field athletes like them, Jasmine Scott Kilgo, Ashira Collins, like they are very capable as well, and are definitely worth watching. Elsewhere, Beyonce DeFreitas managed to take the win in the 200-meter dash. Natalia Madison and Kalia Jones were on the podium for the high jump. I think what was a really big highlight, honestly, is that the UCF actually swept the podium in the 100-meter dash. We're not with Renaya Jones taking the win, but then Asia Wilson and Danielle Bess also getting on the podium as well. Charlotte Crook got second in the 800 meters. And of course, you also have the Knights taking the win in the 4x100 meter relay. So that's obviously not all of it, but I wish I could talk about all of it, but we don't really have the time to do that. Yeah. So if you want to see the results of all of it, head over to the UCF Athletics website, where they have the recaps of all of the finishing order, and you'll be able to see some of this team again when they take those to the Florida relays on April, I believe, 1st through the 2nd, if I'm not mistaken. Yes. And speaking of SEC Network Plus, you guys were talking about that in the last segment. They're going to be streamed on SEC Network Plus as well.
Great. So we can not see that as well. A fantastic job, ESPN. All right, I want to talk real quick about tennis here while we get the opportunity. Men's tennis struggling. They're down to 6-12, and yet they're ranked 54th in the country, which is a function of that schedule. The women, I'm looking at the women's rankings right here. These rankings just came up from the ITA on the 30th yesterday. We're recording this on Thursday, the 31st. UCF in very good position there at 12-6. They're in 18th in the country. So we're approaching that conference phase of the schedule. The men lost to number 38 SMU 4-3 at home. They've got 3 roadies coming up, including Sunday at Tulane in New Orleans. So it's going to be tough. But Trey Hildebrand and Bogdan Pavel continue to perform well in the double circuit. Meanwhile, for the UCF women, they swept FAU on Sunday, number 66 FAU 4-0, and beat Yale 4-1. So they had for 3 conference matches in a row, but they get a week off basically before they face SMU in Dallas next Friday, April the 8th. So they got some time to rest up before this sort of sprint through 3 conference road matches, and then the AAC tournament on April 21st starts for them. So there's
also
tennis for you.
Congrats to Nandini Sharma. She was named the named player of the week for the AAC this weekend.
All right. So that'll pretty much do it here. We've got, what else we got? All right. So Eric, softball against Virginia Tech. That's the big one. We got baseball against South Florida. We got Pro Day on Friday. And hopefully a women's basketball coach sometime in the intervening time here. This is going to get to be a pretty busy week, no?
I do, and hopefully Kyle will, he'll feel better. He'll feel better once we get there. He'll be all right.
I know.
He'll be all right.
Our shout out to Kyle. It's been a rough week for Kyle Nash, but we appreciate him as always. All right, that'll do it for us here on the Black Gold Banneret. Follow us at UCF Banneret_SBN if you don't already. Follow us each individually. Jeff_Sharon, Eric Lopez Elo. It's Bryson Turner. Andrew is at Statboy Drew, and of course Kyle is at the SOTG for the student of the game. You can also follow us on Facebook, facebook.com/blackandgoldbanneret. If you don't subscribe to this podcast, please do. We are on Apple and Android devices. If you do, we appreciate you very much. Send us a rating. Let us know how we're doing. For all of us here at Black and Gold Banneret, I'm Jeff Sharon saying thank you for listening. We will catch you next week.